The lost key to happiness, how greed and envy destroys the human mental health and basically is the end of our civilization. When some years ago the youngest human being to sail around the world, Laura Decker, starting with 14 from Holland and circumnavigating the world, and at 16 finishing the surfing navigation. Well, she took a boat, she worked hard, 2 summer jobs to save up, and I'm saying she was 14 and she already won a lawsuit against the whole state to actually let her try it. With her dad, they repaired an old sail ship. She jumped on without really major sponsors and started to sail, realizing what life is about when you are on your own at 14. Absolutely amazing feat. But why I'm telling the story, so she comes to these tropical islands and she's in need of water and in need of help, and she's basically on a very, very low budget. She meets the native people of the island and spends some time with them. They invite her to their home, which is basically a metal sheet shed they are living on, and she describes it like they're on a hill and they are watching at the bay and there are palms around and they're living in this shed without really electricity and anything. And so a curious European girl is like, yeah, so you happy here? Oh yeah, we are happy. And she was like, yeah, but imagine you would have $1 million. What would you do? And the native's like, what could we do? I mean, I have everything I need. So just imagine, wherever you live, imagine you meet people that from the Western consume society perspective live in like metal sheet sheds, and they are happy. They are smiling and they are telling you they wouldn't even know what to do with $1 million. So a true and very interesting story that, you know, will create the narrative of today's. So contrary to that, Charlie Munger, when he was asked about what destroys society today, and people told him, so greed is destroying it, and he was like, no, it's envy. It's envy that destroys society. Now he is right in the port of envy, and I will start with envy, but he is wrong with greed, because I will start with greed as well later on. So how this fits together? Well, the envy part is one of the major forces that completely destroys the generation, destroys humanity. And how do I mean that? So contrary to these natives that Laura met maybe a decade ago on these islands, today wherever you are in the world, except a few places, you have a cell phone. You have one way to connect to the internet or the other, at least partially for limited time, sitting there watching the screen, and what you see is a force generated by AIs feeding you what is assumed to bring the biggest profit, regardless of what it does to you. And what you probably see mostly is what defines today's society's understanding of success. So, you know, humans ultimately could be viewed as mammals. There is no doubt humans are mammals, and there are so many parallels to the higher primates that I will use in today's monologue here in this beautiful forest. The trees are starting to get green. It's really nice and calm here. So what basically comes screening to you from the screens are these male representatives of success. Are not the pinnacle of human evolution in a sense of intelligence, morals, ethics, spirituality. They are the pinnacle in the skill of manipulation. That's their skill. They are standing there and showing off what success is. What is success then from the perspective of the algorithms? It's a male surrounded by a harem of females, like in higher primates, showing off his power, like in many higher primates usual. So what is the show of power today? Obviously it's not standing in front of armies, we are past that, but at least for now, it's something else. The show of power means they show off they made it in life. It's a harem of expensive sports cars, standing there, surrounded by a harem of beautiful ladies, and showing in an expensive mansion, probably, mostly, showing off, I made it in life. That's their message. You have cars, you have a mansion, you're surrounded by babes, you're surrounded by this female human species representatives on the higher spectrum of quality of appearance, and that makes you successful. Now what this creates with the young generation is twofold. It imprints this pattern of predefined corrupt form of success, that this is the goal that everybody wants to achieve. And the goal can be related to, because it's a very primordial mammal primate form of goal. That is, it's a raw brute force that is basically in most of the people inborn. Now, that's one part of it, but the other part of it, let's talk about achievability. I'm leaving aside that, these prime mammals are manipulators. So one of the most famous one is what now it's investigated for rape and runs a porn industry beyond all the other self-helping courses and so on. The other primate is basically a scammer who boosted to hundreds of millions, has almost nothing, but still trying to keep up that he can live his lavish lifestyle. I mean, it's manipulation. That's what it is, right? So it's basically not achievable. One of the mistakes of society is, I take an example of a poor boy that made it, and I will say, this is how the societal system works. You can do it as well. That's a lie. It's statistically impossible. The mathematics prove it. Don't believe into anything spiritual. Don't take religious ethics into it. It's just mathematics, right? The pyramid to the top is extremely sharp. If everybody would be rich, everybody would be poor. And so it creates the illusion, basically, that the people can make it. But the understanding shouldn't be that the poor boy that makes it is confirming the rule. No, he is the exception that confirms the rule doesn't exist. It's a once in a form, basically statistical error. It's not a rule. So it creates this impression of everybody can achieve it. You just need to be raw and forceful enough. So what creates this on the mental health part of people? And we can really see it strongly today, right? So the young generation now getting born into this world, looking up to these people, being by the algorithms presented, this is success, this is what you should do with your life, this is when you find out that you achieve it. And by the way, you need to do it while you're young, because what can you do as a old primate with this harem of beautiful representatives of the species? Well, yeah, you can be surrounded, but you sort of really passed your prime to make full use of it, right? That's what they're trying to represent. So the message is, be successful in this form and be successful as a young person. Make it young. I mean, how achievable is that? Unless you won the birth lottery ticket and you're born into a rich family and they already provide you with the car and everything, then you just start posting it to all the social media and you become successful because there is an army of screen zombies sitting there dreaming of the lifestyle that you are born into and basically trying to follow you by the hopes that maybe as an old king of the Middle Ages passing through a country and seeing a person that impressed him and you knight him or bringing up into knighthood, maybe they get your attention and you, born into a rich family, will do something and you take one of them with you, right? I mean, this is ridiculous, but it's happening because intelligence, logic, rationality loses to these types of emotions, pre-programmed emotions. So you win the lottery, yeah, congrats. You become a part of this destructive force if you use it this way. And yeah, humanity is really on a slippery trajectory with this approach. So here sits the young generation, the future of humans on this planet, and they look at the screens, they see the models created, and they want to get and be the same, but they can't. Like I said, it's statistically impossible. It's the first effect. The second effect is it completely kills their self-esteem, because they are sitting there looking at each other, growing with envy, and through the group dynamics bringing up that someone is at least a little bit better, someone is worse, someone is terrible, and the self-esteem measured against this absolutely exceptional manipulated images of artificially defined success can create only huge mental issues and anxieties. You're sitting there as a young child, you look at this, and if you're a little bit intelligent, you understand you will never make it. If you don't, then you become a screen zombie and you will be following all these people in hopes that, one day someone might get aware of you and help you out, which, again, may happen on an exceptional level, but statistically makes no sense. So if you have a little bit of intelligence, which in general I believe the humans have, you understand you basically never make it. And that's when if you buy still into these models, that's where your anxiety starts to grow, your self-esteem gets lower and lower, and your mental health starts to break already in your childhood. And therefore envy, fueled by the algorithms, built by these manipulated images of artificial success, is one of the strongest, let me use a religious metaphor here, demons. It's a force. It's an exploited force, on purpose exploited force, that destroys humanity. As a humanist force, we will not destroy humans as a mass of molecules that will move from one place to another based on impulses, be those impulses from commercials or just for survival. That will go on. But how much can we call a mass of molecules that looks like a human if the free spirit is gone? That's a question. Now, greed on itself, as described here, is one part of the equation. I talked so far about this male representatives. Interestingly enough, although we have a very strong movement in society for gender equality and rights of women, if you go through the algorithms, if you look at the success as represented, where are the women? Do you have a woman that stands there with a harem of men and beautiful sports car and a big mansion? Well, It's another really grim situation here. So the majority, what you will see, the majority that represents it, is very different. So when the man have the strategy to become the powerful mammal in all like mammal societies that build actually some groups and societies, the females, they have a strategy on a biological level of attracting the strongest males by posing and exposing certain body parts to stimulate the male's interest. And so if you look at the harems of the successful males, you will see a certain specifics of body types that emphasizes those parts that stimulate sexual interest. And this is what they train, that is what they present, and that's their way to success. So the strategy of the females and humans to attract those powerful males is the same as in the higher primates, is by posing and showing off sexually stimulating parts of the body. And that again creates a horrible example for the younger generation, because these parts are overstimulated. Usually they are surgically implanted. Good luck figuring out what it does to when you are in your 40s and your 50s, right? I mean, the girls are starting in teens to put silicone in. It's crazy. And just look at them when they are then 30 years older. They destroy themselves. And since the males are the males with harems, there is no queen of a harem for a long time. Let's be absolutely clear. Right? That's killing the purpose. Wow. So some parts of the females go the strategy to show off and present themselves again on the social media in this stimulative form, with really focusing on their stimulating parts. Now, then there is the other form of females that actually know and do something, but they live in this world ruled by these primordial forces. So they basically do the same. they just have a team that brush them, makes a beautiful makeup, everything is stylized, and again, they are rich, they made it, they are skilled, and they show off the same way, like this cheap, ordinary, implanted females that try to do the same. I mean, just look at the video clips to music. And look at the successful ones, right? I'm not saying there are not others that go the other way. By all means, they are. But if you look at what is presented to you, if you look at what the algorithm is choosing for society, if you look at what generates this success, it is the mainstream. And the mainstream is primordial. So this is how envy completely destroys it. And it imprints to the boys of this generation, they should be like this. It imprints into the girls of this generation, they should be like this. And 99.9%, a Six Sigma level of percentage, they will not achieve it. And here comes the other reason why it's more and more unattainable. And that's greed. You know, Alan Watts famously said once, you can only live in one house at the same time. You can only drive one car at the same time. And we lost a measure here. The creation and idolizing of success by these show-offs has created a form of super rich that don't know any limits. They just go to grow regardless of anything, because the definition of success became more and more focused just on the figures, they are virtual today, than on the ways it was achieved. And why they are artificial? They're one of the most influential risk management companies in the world, manages more money than physically exists in the world. Let that sink in. So it's virtual. You have $1 billion, you have $10 billion, you have $30 billion, whatever. And you are not richer, in a sense. It's just numbers. Your lifestyle, your ability to live isn't really possible to increase, because you can live only in one house, you can be only in one car. Yes, you can have a harem, okay, get that. But still, it's not making you any, your life isn't richer by generating this more and more defined profit. But this greed destroys society in the sense that the resources are finite. So the billions of the people on this planet are in a competition for the resources. And since the ethics of earnings, the ethics of profit have really slumbered, they just gone away in the especially last decades. There are no boundaries. And that means that everyone who already has this great start, who already accumulated a strong amount of wealth, is in a super position to compete with the rest for the finite resources. And it's an exponential form of growth for the rich. And it's a huge decrease of wealth for the rest of the planet. This has two problems. You concentrate too much power in a few people. Right? Today we have the situation that we have one individual that can decide wars, in a sense. Maybe there are two or three, one on the social media, the other one is technology. So it's a few people on this planet that have powers beyond governments. And even if they would be prime representatives of the species, it's very tempting. And even if they would be very strong mentally, everybody can have a bad moment and make a bad decision. And the impact is tremendous. And it's greed. Because if you run a multi-billion-dollar company and you still need to force your labor on minimum wages and not caring about their health or anything, it makes you mathematically richer, but it won't change completely your lifestyle. You already accumulated as much as you can use. So greed destroys the society by fueling this envy any further. It concentrates so much power in a few people that by their nature are basically successful manipulators, rather than anything else. And they then, with their power, influence the society to their means because they have the power. And the one superpower that the ordinary person actually has in a liberal Western world, it's the ability to express themselves and actually to vote, maybe. I don't want to get really political here, so let's keep it more on a social level. So you have the right to vote. But since this power have the tens, hundreds of millions of your state, this power is basically meaningless unless they unify, right? To a certain point or degree, which the manipulative forces are definitely working on not to happen. These are the primordial nature laws. So that's why the society is fueled by this envy looking up, without the understanding of the probabilities and mechanisms. And then the greed of the few basically eating up the rest and making it with each year more and more unattainable for the rest. I'm not saying unattainable to become a billionaire, even a millionaire. Just unattainable for a happy life in a material realm if your foundation is materialistic, which if you have a human body, it most probably is. So there comes another part of this. Why I'm saying this is a destruction of humanity. Obviously, if you completely destroy the human mental health of a young generation and they grow up, you already destroyed a portion of what makes humans humans, because the way how we evolved as highest primates on this planet is through cooperation. The Neanderthals were stronger, healthier, but the Homo sapiens was able of better coordination and cooperation, and it's coordination that brings the power, it's cooperation that brings the power. And we will be losing it. Yes, we will have a substitute for that, which will be manipulation. But there is one force that's incredibly important for the evolution that we are very fast losing. Another point is that this greed for artificial growth has practical implications, because it's exploitation of natural resources. They are limited as well. And the way and form of exploiting the material resources is so destructible that it's already clear we surpassed in the destruction of the planet the pessimistic scientific predictions of climate change and so on. Now there are people that argue no, there is no climate change, but again, right, look at the data, they are absolutely clear. If you look objectively at the data and rationally, I can have an argument, but all the data speak one language at this point, which is extremely rare. And there's a reason why environmental scientists are the scientists with the highest suicide rate of them all. So these few powerful mammal primates, super primates, representing the manipulated abstract idols, how far in the future they are thinking. Well, some of them, yes. There comes this idea, oh yeah, let's get multi-planetary, right? But just understand what it actually says. It says, oh, Earth is great, there will be nothing better than the Earth. We are destroying it, and we will destroy it more and more as we will be more and more people. Everybody needs water, everybody needs energy, everybody needs food, everybody creates sewage. It's just, again, trajectory that's very clear. So hey, let's give the poor people an alternative. Let's send them to another planet. And you think if there will be a if there will be a multiplanetary project, that the most rich people will be those that will fly there in the planet that they chose, where the high radiation and without a strong atmosphere, we would need to live underground. It's even if it works, and that's a big even, but you know, we are ingenious as people, so we can make it. Okay, we make it. Say we make it. Who do you think will be shifted over there? And who will stay on the planet here? So they think ahead, but do you really think, although they pose as humanists and say I am a humanist, blah blah, it's not the words, it's the actions, and the actions again speak absolutely clear if you analyze it. So you think they do it for the better of humanity, or do they do it because they understand that the trajectory, and they have access to pristine data, and the trajectory basically shows that if we don't lift off amount of people from this planet, we come to the point where we must extinct ourselves. Yeah, we are running towards this scenario, right? it's a probability. It's not a certainty, it's a probability. Again, the data speaking quite clearly. You go, list your research, draw your own conclusions, right? I'm going a little bit outside of my scope in here. And it's important to connect the dots. If we speak about a lost key to happiness, then it is the environment that is by greed, profit driven, dehumanized algorithms owned by humans detached from the real life, generated to feed on the rawest powers of people, like this envy, to manipulate the whole society in the direction that profits only the few. And that's a dangerous trajectory that goes against the evolutionary nature of cooperative builds that stood in the beginning. And always when this trajectory reached a certain horrible threshold, horrible things happened in the world. Now, it's more probable that this time it won't be the French Revolution, or it will not be the Bolsheviks or the Maoists that will turn over society. It's more probable, in my opinion, that it will be the complete destruction of the environment that will, for the masses and for the majority of the people, destroy the livable ground. So the mass extinction event doesn't mean that everybody goes extinct, it means that the masses go extinct. And it is possible, if we keep the trajectory of unhinged, slow destruction, if our predictive models are failing and the destruction is going faster than the scientists have predicted, then that's something to really worry about and go in and redefine our priorities, our measures, and maybe look at our norms and rules. If there is something that we can do, that is, if we want to. And one is certain: we are losing. I'm basically saying, for the majority people, statistically, we lost the key to happiness.